You've heard about electric cars, and I bet it was mind-blowing. The fact that it uses an electric motor instead of the normal internal combustion engine is one thing that's definitely amazing. But have you heard about Toyota's new engine? Well, the entire industry is amazed already, and you're about to find out what's special about it. But before we start the video, be sure to leave a like, and if you'd like to join this month's giveaway for one of these items on the screen, then all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, and then watch this video to the end to comment the hidden keyword. Good luck! For a long time, we've relied on fossil fuels to power cars, and ever since, engineers have been looking for other ways other than usage of petrol. Next, we heard about electric cars that you can charge like you charge your phones. And now, Toyota has come up with an insane engine that doesn't need petrol or battery, but an odorless, colorless, and tasteless gaseous substance, hydrogen. Hence the reason it's called hydrogen engine, and the cars, hydrogen fuel cell cars, or simply hydrogen cars. There are reasons why the hydrogen engine is special, which we're going to discuss in this video, but aren't you curious about how the whole hydrogen making a car run thing? Let's talk about that. Hydrogen simply serves as the fuel the engine needs to work. It produces electricity, and the electricity powers the wheels. That's the explanation in its simplest form. Now you see, because there's production of electricity, it looks like it's the same with electric vehicles. But no, let's dig deeper. When you put hydrogen in the car, it goes into the fuel tank just like the petrol does in petrol cars. From the tank, it goes into the fuel cell. And yes, there is where electricity generation happens. At that point, there's the usage of the normal chemistry to combine hydrogen plus the oxygen in the air that we breathe, and that automatically generates electricity. That's not all. There's a liquid in the fuel cell that has a positively charged anode on one side and a negatively charged cathode on the other side. If you're confused, think of a battery. Inside the cell, the hydrogen atoms split into protons and electrons. The electron provides the power, while the proton is converted into the exhaust product. Now you know the hydrogen is more than the first element in the periodic table. Hop up! In case you didn't know, there are other applications of hydrogen fuel cells, which includes generation of electricity for industrial and individual applications. Also, spacefaring rockets use hydrogen fuel cells. In the early 1960s, General Electric produced a fuel cell-based electrical power system. General Electric used the principles found in the alkaline fuel cells, AFC, also known as the Bacon fuel cell, as the basis of its design. The fuel cell provides the space shuttle's electricity and also provides drinking water for the crew. Because of the usefulness of hydrogen fuel cells, NASA has been crucial to its development. The agency has funded over 200 research projects, which brought it to the level where private companies such as Toyota and Hyundai took it up. As great as other types of vehicles are, we think hydrogen cars are better, and here's why. The very first reason is because it's safe for the environment. Unlike the cars that emit carbon monoxide, hydrogen cars have zero emission. Not that it does emit at all, it's just that its byproduct is water vapor, which is emitting through the exhaust. You can as well consume its byproduct, right? It also uses hydrogen, which is abundant in nature. In other words, there's no reason to fear that we're running out of it. In contrast, other vehicles have made environmental activists worried over time. They were concerned about how the electricity inside the batteries of EVs are produced and also what petrol cars emit. You must also have been used to the sound other vehicles make while they're working, and sometimes you just don't want that noise. The good news is hydrogen cars don't make noise, they work quietly. One of the major things that makes some people run away from getting a particular type of car is the cost of maintenance. Internal combustion engines require high cost of maintenance, but since hydrogen cars don't use internal combustion engines, the cost of maintenance is quite minimal. Electric vehicles are known to have driving range problems. You must be ready to pay a lot of money before you can get electric vehicles with great driving ranges. An example is the Tesla Model 3, which is the cheapest Tesla available with a driving range of over 200 miles. Great, right? A quick reminder that the standard range RWD trim starts from 48,490 with zero upgrade, and you can go as high as 63,490. Here's where the major problem comes in. The larger the battery, the more time you spend charging it. To charge some electric vehicles, you can spend up to 1 hour, but with hydrogen cars, it's a different story. They offer longer driving ranges. An example is the Hyundai Nexo, which can last 414 miles before giving out. and when it needs to be refilled, you only need a few minutes of your time. Why wouldn't you consider a hydrogen car for a long trip instead of an electric car? Electric vehicles don't really perform well when the weather is too cold or hot. This means during some times you'd be scared to use your EV if you have one. Hydrogen fuel cars say don't worry about the weather. Whatever the weather brings, hydrogen cars work well with no issues. Whether you're in a place as cold as -40 degrees Celsius or you're in a desert, you can always count on a hydrogen car. According to the US Department of Energy, hydrogen fuel cells have between 40 and 60% energy efficiency compared to the internal combustion engine, which only manages 25% efficiency. With all that said, you can agree that hydrogen cars are simply amazing, right? But have you heard about the saying, every rose has its thorn? The hydrogen car has its own issues as well. The first issue, and which I think is the major issue, is insufficient hydrogen stations. Imagine getting a car and there's nowhere to fuel it. That's a big problem, right? Right, hydrogen cars solely depend on hydrogen as fuel, and there are no hydrogen stations everywhere in so many places. That is why these cars are only sold in some parts of the world. It's actually not that we can't have hydrogen stations here and there yet, but I think the problem is the way and cost of getting hydrogen. This is one of the obstacles in the path of hydrogen cars becoming mainstream. This is why you haven't been seeing these cars everywhere like electric vehicles. Getting hydrogen is not an easy process. If you want to know, here's how it's produced. To produce hydrogen, it must be separated from the other elements in the molecules where it occurs. There are many different sources of hydrogen and ways for producing it for use as a fuel. The two most common methods for producing hydrogen are steam-methane reforming and electrolysis. Electrolysis is basically splitting water with electricity. Most hydrogen produced today in the United States is made via steam-methane reforming, a mature production process in which high-temperature steam of about 700 to 1000 Celsius is used to produce hydrogen from a methane source, such as natural gas. In steam-methane reforming, methane reacts with steam under 325 bar pressure, in which 1 bar equals 14.5 psi in the presence of a catalyst to produce hydrogen, carbon monoxide, and a relatively small amount of carbon dioxide. Steam reforming is endothermic, which means heat must be supplied to the process for the reaction to proceed. Subsequently, in what is called the water-gas shift reaction, the carbon monoxide and steam are reacted using a catalyst to produce carbon dioxide and more hydrogen. In a final process step called pressure swing adsorption, carbon dioxide and other impurities are removed from the gas stream, leaving essentially pure hydrogen. Steam reforming can also be used to produce hydrogen from other fuels, such as ethanol, propane, or even gasoline. Another method is the partial oxidation. In partial oxidation, the methane and other hydrocarbons in natural gas react with a limited amount of hydrogen, typically from air, that is not enough to completely oxidize the hydrocarbons to carbon dioxide and water. With a limited amount of oxygen available, the reaction products contain primarily hydrogen and carbon monoxide, and a relatively small amount of carbon dioxide and other compounds. Subsequently, in a water-gas shift reaction, the carbon monoxide reacts with water to form carbon dioxide and more hydrogen. Partial oxidation is a process which gives off heat. Although the process is, typically, much faster than steam reforming and requires a smaller reactor vessel, it produces less hydrogen per unit of the input fuel when compared to steam reforming of the same fuel. This means if we need enough hydrogen, we need to go with the steam reforming process, which requires a catalyst. The catalyst needed in this process is called nickel. Nickel prices have continued to rise as there's a high demand for it worldwide. It means if there's going to be continuity or mass usage of hydrogen cars, there must be other ways to produce hydrogen. Good news is that Toyota is looking for alternative ways to produce hydrogen. And guess what? This new method will make hydrogen and milk come from the same source. Yeah, you guessed right, cows. Toyota has devised the means of using cow manure to produce hydrogen in its Trigen project, which produces hydrogen from organic cattle waste. Having the future of hydrogen cars in mind, the Trigen power plant produces electricity, water, and hydrogen. Hydrogen, of course, the major product needed here, will then be used by Toyota's Mirai. According to Toyota, a Mirai would run on hydrogen derived from a single cow's waste for a whole year. Isn't that interesting? What's not so interesting is the fear of explosion that people have for hydrogen cars. And that's because of the Hindenburg explosion that happened in 1937. The German airship Hindenburg caught fire and was destroyed while trying to dock. It was said to be loaded with hydrogen gas, which is a flammable gas, and because of that, the accident was blamed on hydrogen, though there are other things suspected to have caused the accident. Toyota knows what it's getting into when producing the hydrogen engine, which is why the fuel cell tank in the Mirai is pressurized up to 10,000 psi. Even if the tank gets punctured in any way, hydrogen is a lot lighter than air, which means it would immediately dissipate into the atmosphere before it gets the chance to combust. The tank itself has been tested with bullets and was only punctured when hit twice on the same spot. That's a relief, right? So if you're planning to get yourself a hydrogen car, there are two types you can choose from: Hyundai's Nexo, which was released in 2018, and Toyota's Mirai, which released its first model in 2014, and the new model in 2021. Both are sold mostly in California for the availability of hydrogen stations. Currently, Japan has a lot of hydrogen stations too, which means it can use hydrogen cars as well. Well, do you think hydrogen cars are the best, or would you rather go for electric vehicles? Let us know in the comment section. Hey you, yeah you like the video? Great, we've got another one for you that we guarantee you'll like, and all you have to do is click on the screen. It's free and without any hidden fees, but you have to click on it fast because this message will self-destruct in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.